With the trade deadline approaching, it is no secret Dallas needs another defensive end or more help on defense, even with the addition over the offseason. And there's one in the trade market, and we're going to break it down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Cowboys Football 365. Let's jump right into it. For today, the guy that everyone should be thinking about is Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Pass rusher who can fill the void that was left behind by the Micah Parsons trade over the offseason. Trey Hendrickson is one of the best defensive ends in the league, putting up 17.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons. So far this season, he has put up 10 tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble for the Cincinnati Bengals. But for whatever reason, the Cincinnati Bengals do not want to pay Trey Hendrickson a big contract. He is over the age of 30. So that's why they didn't want to pay him. But being over the age of 30 will make him cheaper for the Dallas Cowboys to go out and trade for them should they want to go add to this defense, which it has been no secret that since hiring Matt Eberflus's defense has not lived up to the expectations that we thought was going to happen coming into the season. Dallas is currently giving up 401.6 yards per game. I know I have used this graphic in every single video so far, but it really is the graphic that sums up the entire Dallas Cowboys season so far. This combined with the fact that they are number 1 in yards per game offensively. Fantastic offense, but an absolutely hopeless defense. Now, I do think Matt Eberflus doesn't have the most talent in the world to work with on this defense, and it's not completely his fault of how badly the defense is playing, the fact that they're dead last, although there are some obvious coverage breakdowns that you can see while watching. Now, Trevon Diggs has always had problems with it, on out and up. He has been liable to going for the out and then getting burnt up. He tries to make the big play and sometimes gets burnt doing it, but that really hasn't been the reason why it's happened so far this season. A lot of the defensive breakdowns come from miscommunications on the back end, and unfortunately, that is coaching. The coach has to make sure that the defense has clear, concise, talks. They got to make sure that the call-outs are something that is easily understandable and everyone is on the same page. You just got to practice the plays more and make sure that those types of breakdowns don't happen over and over and over again. Going back to the Chicago Bears game was the worst example of it, where the Bears score a touchdown and then their very next offensive play was the flea flicker to Luther Burden for another touchdown on back-to-back plays. And you don't run flea flickers unless you know you are up against an undisciplined defense. The safeties, they're supposed to not let offensive players get farther back than them. So Luther Burden should not be running past our deep corners and our deep safeties, but he was able to get by because the coaching had not coached them up properly, and the Bears knew they were able to exploit a defense that wasn't properly, they weren't properly coached, and they weren't I'm completely blanking on the word, but everyone didn't know their role as well as they should. But speaking of everyone, there is a little bit of good news on the defensive front. Star linebacker DeMarvion Overshown is ramping up at practice and looking better and better and healthier every single day. Absolutely heartbreaking when he went out with a season-ending injury last year in 2024. But you knew the linebacker out of Texas was going to come back even stronger, and I cannot wait to see what happens when DeMarvion Overshown gets the opportunity to get back on the football field and start making plays for the Dallas Cowboys. We gotta get all of our guys back healthy. Trevon Diggs also dealing with that concussion. That's a problem, but right now, Overshown still questionable for the game coming up, but we got to figure out what is going to happen with the guys we have in-house. So look, if the guys in-house aren't good enough, we got to go out and figure out something else, another thing that can help us. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys pass rush is not even close to good enough, which is why bringing in Trey Hendrickson, who to me, and I watch a lot, a kind of a disgusting amount of football. Trey Hendrickson has the fastest get off of anybody in the NFL or in college football right now. Trey Hendrickson is an absolute demon off of the football. If we go back to his height weight, he is a little bit shorter than he's shorter than you would expect, and 265 pounds. The dude is way heavier than you would expect for a guy that moves as well as he does. He's shorter than Max Crosby. That's what I was thinking about. Shorter than Max Crosby, but heavier than Max Crosby. The dude does not look like he's 6'4", 265. He looks like he's skinnier than that, and he moves like he's way lighter than that. The dude is an absolute monster. The only player in the NFL with 17.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons last year, leading the NFL in sacks. And I know 17.5 usually isn't a high enough number to lead the NFL in sacks, but here we are. He did it. You got to tip your cap to him. You can't turn your nose up at 17.5 sacks just because, the number is usually higher than that. He's an absolute monster and someone that can help the Dallas Cowboys defense. Now, you may be asking, why would the Cincinnati Bengals trade him? Like I said before, they've been reluctant to hand a long-term contract out to Trey Hendrickson. They, for whatever reason, or not for whatever reasons, the Cincinnati Bengals are a notoriously cheap franchise. Jerry Jones, he usually plays with his players, but eventually Dak Prescott, Ceedee Lamb, the guys who are supposed to get paid, everyone other than Micah, when they're supposed to get paid, he'll pay you what you're worth. And it probably hurt him more than it helped him with Dak Prescott and Ceedee, because he could have paid them less money if they got paid earlier in the offseason. But hey, usually Jerry Jones, he's going to pay the guys eventually, just not immediately. So Trey Hendrickson, they would be willing to pay him, and it would not cost anywhere close to as much as, or not, I'm not going to say anywhere as close as Max Crosby. Max Crosby's already paid, so you wouldn't have to extend him should you trade for Max Crosby. But the trading for Trey Hendrickson, he's currently on a 1-year deal, and it wouldn't really make sense to not sign him to a longer-term contract. I know we have 2 first-round picks coming up in this draft, but you still, if you got a monster like this and you trade any sort of draft capital for him, you want to make sure you're signing him to a longer-term deal. We have to remember, only 31 years old is not old. He's just not a young player. So the Cincinnati Bengals, if they want to continue to pinch pennies like they've done in the past, they can continue to win 0 Super Bowls like they've done in the past. The right move is to at least call up on Trey Hendrickson and figure out what is the deal with him. Just last week, it said that the Cincinnati Bengals were calling on Trey Hendrickson, or they were taking calls on Trey Hendrickson. Today, it kind of feels like the market for him is cooling off a little bit, or maybe with Joe Flacco coming in and revamping their offense, they're feeling a little bit worse about trading Trey Hendrickson. But the Dallas Cowboys need to be looking for opportunities to upgrade the defense anywhere they can. And if you could send a 3rd-round pick for Trey Hendrickson and then pay him a 3-year contract, I'd say. We'll do a 3-year, front load it, so we'll pay him when he makes a lot of money, and maybe if he gets too old, that last year you can cut him and not hurt your salary cap too much in the long term. But Trey Hendrickson would be a player that Dallas Cowboys fans can be extremely excited about, someone who would make a huge difference for this defense, because right now, the number 1 plan for Jerry coming into this year was stopping the run, and he decided, we're going to stop the run even if it costs us Micah Parsons. And it did cost us Micah Parsons. I love, Kenny Clark has been a good player, and he didn't get the respect that he deserved from the media when the trade happened. But it's hard to think about the other guy in the trade when one of the players involved with that trade is Micah Parsons, one of the best edge rushers in all of football. But I will say, this overall, the team is looking really solid because all the other moves that Jerry made are looking like tremendous hits. I mean, if they had Micah Parsons or another defender who could play that at that type of level, they would be top of the NFC East, still in the thick of the NFC East, but would be all the way at the top of it with a top end pass rusher. And it's not too late to amend that wrong and still have some extra 1st-round picks for the future. Trey Hendrickson will cost us multiple picks, but they're not going to be 1st-round picks. So we can hang on to our 4 1st-round picks over the next 2 years. We can spend them on offensive linemen or even more defenders, whatever Jerry Jones decides he wants to do in the moment, and then go shore up the defensive end position by adding a proven guy, someone who's going to put up a ton of sacks, and someone who I am extremely excited to see where he ends up if Trey Hendrickson does end up getting traded from the Cincinnati Bengals. But that's what I got for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Cowboys.